Hi everyone, welcome to WW Designs. My name is Nikki, and in my last video I tried to turn modern papers into a little bit vintage, and we made these beautiful 2 pages. This opens up and there's pretty things hidden in there for my swap partner, and now I need to make the very last page for this challenge that has run for the first few months of this year. So just like before, we're starting with a base, and it is 8 inches by 7.5, and of course we're doing 2 or 4 pages for each swap, and then it will be held together with binder rings. So I'm starting with a printable, the same as I used on the last one. I purchased this background kit from Angela Kerr Designs. So this time I've decided to use the green version. I used the pink one in the last one. And this lady that I am swapping with loves vintage and loves flowers. So I am just going all out with vintage flowers for this one. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create an envelope. So if you are interested in trying to do this exact style, take a screenshot of this. This has all the measurements, and whilst it looks very confusing, it was actually very simple. So I started off, we need a 6-inch pocket, then I've got 1 1/4, and that's supposed to be 3/4. I don't know where I got 3 1/4 from. We better correct that, guys. 3/4 of an inch, and then 1.5 inches across. So I started off, of course, with a rectangle. Then I cut out my bottom bits, and then I used a coin to trace this rounded shape. It makes it really easy to cut. You just put it right up to the corner, get the sides of the coin to the edge, and then you trace around. Then you do exactly the same at the top, but of course what we did is we have to give this a bit of an angle so that when we put it together, you've got a little bit of room here. Now, I do have to quickly just get rid of this before I glue all this down, because I realised, of course, that this is not double-sided. Probably could have printed double-sided. That would have been quite ideal, but I may actually even pop a little bit of lining in there. I'll have a think about that. So let's just quickly glue this together. Very simple process. Running a little bit of glue along here. And then what I am going to do, I'm going to grab a piece of baking paper. This is nice. I just thought about this, but I think this might be a very good idea. And if I put the little piece of baking paper in there, just in case, I've tried not to use too much glue, but in case any does spill over, you don't have to worry about actually gluing your envelope together. So we'll done that bit first. I'll let that sit there just for a moment, and then we are going to glue this part down. Now, this particular sheet is a freebie that I got from Artie Mays. It's a pity the envelope's being stuck down this way, because this is such a gorgeous design. But look, it is what it is. And I think I should safely, see, I didn't really get any resistance there, but this way, you know, you're not sticking your pocket down. And then we are going to, now, hang on, I've just got to make sure I get this right. Now, I have to consider keeping a border here, because that's where the holes are going to be punched. But I think I'm going to place it about there so that I can have a little sticky bitty outie here, because when this is glued together, this will be on the outer edge. So we're not going to glue that side down. So let's just add a tiny bit of glue again, all the way around, but keeping this outer edge open. so I can stuff things in the pockets. Right, down we go. Just so we can see, roughly central. Actually, no, let's just make it a little bit lower. Just, you know, if you do things off center, then do it properly off center, and then you don't have to worry about measuring, and of course it looks perfectly okay. Then the next side, now keeping in mind officially this is the back page of the journal. This journal doesn't have an actual cover. You just put all of the pages together. So keeping in mind, I'm trying to keep things flat as possible because you don't want anything too bulky and then the journal won't sort of sit flat down. So we've got a very simple double pocket happening for this one. Now this piece here, just realised I didn't write the measurements on the back, but if I'm correct, it's 6 inches. Yes, no, or 5 3/4. No, 6 inches by just shy of 3 inches. And mine, I think it was meant to be 4 inches, but this was the piece of scrap I had left. And I went, well, look, it really doesn't matter if this is not the perfect size. It's a tiny bit skinnier, but I tried to use up as much as possible of this beautiful page from Artie Mays. I fully intended to use all these pieces and do the challenge that she had done, but of course time got away from me. But at least it is getting some use now. And it is so pretty. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave the same sort of gap. Not that it really matters because, of course, you don't see this when the two pages are glued together. And then we have another simple little pocket. Again, have to cover up this beautiful flower, but at least I have a lovely butterfly for compensation. That's the only trouble with these beautiful pages. You always have to cover something up when you're junk journaling unless you used it as, mind you, if you used it as a page, you'd put some sort of ephemera or something on top, wouldn't you? Such a pity because this was just the most beautiful sheet when it was whole. And there we go. So we've got a very simple double pocket. Now, one thing I had was this little scrap from, you know, when I cut this bit out here. And what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to put this up here. Just the reason being is this is now upside down. And of course it doesn't actually matter, but it annoys me a little bit. So I thought I've got this little scrap. I can just put this down here as a little bit of deco type arrangement. Whoops-a-daisy. No, Nikki. That's it. Oh, it's going to be naughty. There we go, because it literally just fits perfectly. And I have this little flower, which I'm also going to add up here. Maybe we'll pop that over there. And then to help keep this flap down, I have another flower, and I'm not, oh, which way should it go? No, it definitely goes that way. I'm not putting glue right at the top, but leaving some empty space, because what we're going to do is also glue this on, but with the flower just nudging over the top. And then we create a little tuck spot. See how cool is that? There we go. Now, I found this beautiful butterfly in my stash, which I think really needs to go down here. So we're just going to add a little bit of glue. And that way we've sort of got matching butterflies. Well, they're not matching, but we have a butterfly on each side. And I'm going to hide that little chick because to me, every time I see little chickens, I always think of Easter. And this is not an Easter project, so we'll just sort of cover him up. And there we go. We've got that beautiful butterfly. Now, for inside here, this is another piece from that page. I decided that had to be a journaling card in its own right. And so I've cut it for a very snug fit. And if I get it in straight, see, it just fits perfectly. But then I also found this in my stash. This was a cut-apart sheet, and I went, oh, it's so pretty. And then I was gifted this forever ago, and it's a cute little tab which has a hole cut out, and there's paper, pretty florals on it. And I've decided I'm going to use this up because it just seemed like the perfect match to me. So we're just going to add a bit of glue here. And then I'm going to add this tab to the side of this journal card. And I want it up that way. These, I don't think belong together, but they certainly look as though they do. And then we're just going to glue that down. And then that gets hidden in there. And I don't mind if this sits out a little bit, because that then will stick out on the edge of the journal, which I think is very cute. And then, of course, we need something to go in this pocket. I also found this in my stash. I don't know where I got it from, but it was very florally, and so I decided that was the one I will use. And all I've done is glue on the tiniest little bit of lace, because what we need to do here is this needs to sit in here, but we need to be able to fold over our flap. So I didn't want anything too thick, but this makes it very easy to pull this journal card out. There we go. And then for this other page, I just wanted to add a little something in here. This is just a little piece of coffee dyed, sort of like, it's got stripes on it. Different coloured ones. It's quite cool. So I'm just going to pop that on there. And then I've got this really tiny, weeny little label, which I'm also going to add just for fun. Whoops, maybe not upside down though, hey? It's so tiny. Just felt like my little pocket needed something. There we go. And then for filling our pockets, this was another one from this same cut apart sheet. So I've included that. We'll just sort of sit that in there. And then I also made this other tiny little tag. This is a little scrap. This is a little scrap. This is a little ticket I found in my stash. I even added a tiny little bit of lace. So we're going to pop that in there like that. Again, trying to keep things flat. And then for the top pocket, I just had this little scrap. I don't know where this paper came from. I think it might have been gifted. And I just thought a piece of writing paper up here instead of another thicker journaling card might be a good idea. So we'll just gently shimmy this in. There we go. We've gently nudged that in. And now all I have to do is glue these two together and then send them on their merry way. So this is the end of this particular swap. It just ran for the first 5 months of the year. And then our next project is actually another one that runs for the rest of the year. We get one swap partner and we have to make a complete journal, including decoration, and it's in a style I have never done before. So it may very well be quite challenging, but could also be a lot of fun. And I will, of course, take you on that journey as I start making it, because we have a whole 5 months to complete it. So that should be fun and something very different. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments box below. And if you could give this video a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed this one. Until next time, thank you for watching. Bye for now.